Good morning and welcome to Purpose Driven Finances, where our focus is helping you use your finances to achieve the purpose and plan for your life. And now here's the host of Purpose Driven Finances, Alan Molina with Serwus Capital Management.
Good morning. This is Alan Molina, your host of Purpose Driven Finances and President of Serwus Capital Management.
Are you trying to sound like cheesy DJ guy?
Hey!
Traffic and weather together on the nines.
Hey! You know, when I was a kid, I always wanted to be like Robin Williams. Good morning, Lynchburg! You know, I love that. And I finally get to do it, you know. So if I could do nothing else, that makes my day.
Your day has been made.
My day has been made. But Rich, as everybody has heard, my favorite co-host, my friend, my homie. How you doing, my friend?
I'm good, Alan. How about you?
Doing really well.
Looking forward to some warmer weather, huh?
Oh, well, I'm going to Virginia Beach this weekend.
They got buried.
12 to 14 inches.
Ooh.
And my kids are staying at the house. My middle child was like, "Yo, I'm going to have a party." We know that really isn't the case, but, you know, it's, you know, I did not react.
You know what I determined from stuff like that?
What?
If it's something you don't find out about until much later in life, like,
yeah,
you know, when they're 30, they'll be like, "Hey, Dad."
Exactly.
But it's like, if you didn't find out about it, then it wasn't that big a deal.
Right. Exactly.
Right? I mean, not that we want it to happen.
Right, right.
It's like, that's what I told my wife. I go, if we don't find out about anything, we're good.
Exactly. And so, yeah, it's just one of those things, and it'll be fun. But I'm shooting in a pool tournament.
Well,
but
good luck.
I appreciate it. Worst case scenario, I just have a great time with my wife. And we're going to, I think, the Atlantic for eating out. A friend of mine said that's his favorite place. I don't know anything much about Virginia Beach.
Me either.
And we're going to go to your second favorite thing besides golf, antiquing.
See, I'm thinking like Bourbon Bar.
Right.
And you come up with antique.
Yeah, there's a...
yeah, that's right. That's like 1A and 1B.
And then number 3 is shopping.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
You know, so yeah, my wife found one that's like 45,000 square feet of antiques.
Oh.
You know.
Wow, that sounds like the jackpot.
I'll bring you something back, bro. You know.
That sounds like you're going to be there all freaking day.
You know. So it'll be a fun time. But folks, thank you for sticking around for Purpose-Driven Finances and helping you achieve the purpose for your life, purpose and plan for your life. What I wanted to do is we're going to spend a few minutes and talk about what's happening in your portfolio, but also spend the bulk of the time in financial planning. And I'm excited. I told Rich before we started, this is probably a hyperbole, but this is one of the most important shows that you can listen to. And it's amazing the data I have. But we only have about 6 minutes left. So Rich, on Friday, the markets, they got pummeled. I mean, ugly, like ugly, like
most people never want to hear that out.
Right. It was ugly. And the thing that I took from it is the QPM, you know, wasn't down as much as the market was. I was happy about that, you know, but the markets were still ugly. And I was going through my news feed because normally if something happened, you know what it is. You know, one thing that's interesting is February OPEX occurred. And you're like, what is that? And everybody else is like, OPEX, what the heck is that? That is when the monthly options for February expire and they start rolling over. And what's interesting is the big COVID crash occurred between February and March OPEX. And people are like, oh, it's happening, and it's all that kind of stuff. But realistically, you know, February economically and inflationary were down. I'm telling you, it will be reported in March. But I think really what's happening is OPEX. But here's the number one real reason that it happened is I'm going to read this quote that I got from my research analyst. Is the I got to figure out how to pronounce this word. The virologist that published the research on the HKU5 COVID-2 is the same that worked on the SARS COVID-2. You want to try to pronounce his name?
Shi Zhengli.
Oh, I like that. That's nice. And the research indicates that if that it is present in bats. That's what they all say. And it could spill over to humans. Not that it has or not that it will. We have evidence to support this. But it's getting traction due to layoffs at health agencies, specifically CDC. So the market is using this news just to sell the news. Normally it's buy the news, buy the rumor, sell the news. And so what's happening is they're just getting a little nervous. Add that on the OPEX. And it's the anniversary of February 2020 when the market started really tanking. And usually OPEX is rather volatile and violent. And so that's really...
So the anniversary of a bad day typically doesn't bode well for the market?
Well, this one...
I guess what I'm asking is that more of a coincidence than anything?
I think it's more of a coincidence.
It's not like, what was it years and years ago? Black Monday?
Black Monday.
And that was in October, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, but it's not like every October, whatever,
right.
The market crashes because...
Exactly.
Okay.
It's just, you can't say recency bias, but what happens is people have bias and they tag themselves to a date or an event. Like I was hit by a dump truck. Everybody knows that. I was in my car, and for probably a good 10 years, I'd be driving down the road, and if I saw a truck coming to me, I'd be a little nervous, like, hold on a little tighter. Is this cotter pin going to break? That kind of thing. Is he going to hit the brakes? And a lot of people, when they look at dates in the past, they go, well, it's because of this. This is the reason it's happening. From my analyst, I pay for a lot of research on a daily basis, monthly, yearly basis, and they basically say it's a lot of noise. And so what I'm expecting to happen is probably next week the market to take off again. And the exciting part is March and April are going to be quad twos. You're like, what's that, Alan? My wife is like, Alan, you speak in all these quads and no one knows what they're talking about. That's why you're supposed to call me. 434-316-0246. Let's sit down, look at your portfolio, do some financial planning. But in March and April, the economy is supposed to improve. Inflation will go up a little bit. Here's what's interesting is when inflation is reported in March from February, it's going to be down from where it was. So guess what the market's going to do? Run. It's going to take off. But it's going to be old data. But people, they look at what's being reported as the key and things such as that. And also, another thing that's happening is long-term bond yields are finally starting to come down. I was meeting with a prospective client on Friday, and we were talking about bonds and portfolio construction and what happens when you're in retirement age. And a few years back, they made the change unknowing to what was happening. They just did it because of inflation, from long-term bonds to short-term bonds. And I said, you did a great job. You saved yourself a butt whooping because the TLT went from like 140, 150. I think if my memory is good, all the way down to 90.
TLT is the...
long-term bonds.
Okay.
U.S. government long-term bonds. And it's starting to creep back up. And actually... in our,
and I know you're looking to move through this, but that's something that people should know is that investing in funds or ETFs with bonds, because not everybody, but a lot of people feel like, oh, I'm in bonds, that's safe.
Right.
But to your point, going from 140 to 90, you're losing
a lot of money.
A huge amount of money.
Right. It was
bonds.
In bonds. U.S. government bonds, and they didn't default. It just interest rates fell. I'm sorry, interest rates went up. And when interest rates start falling, then long-term bonds do extremely well. Like we are in ZROZ today, or not today, on Friday and Thursday. And I think at one point it was up over 2%. That in one day, bonds. And so what people don't realize is in your bond portfolio, you can classify it as conservative, but you can lose more in bonds than you do in stocks, because managing a bond portfolio can be much more sophisticated than just a stock portfolio, because you have to not only look at the quality of the company, but also where interest rates are, where inflation is, and things such as that. Now, folks, we're cutting this beginning portion over and done with, and we're going to go to probably a minute break. But hang around, get you a refill of coffee, get you a notepad, because we got some very important information for financial planning that'll help you through the rest of your life. Give me a call, 434-316-0246. Catch you on the flip side.
This is Chainsaw Talk with Tommy, the woodsman. Do ladders and tree work mix? A quick internet search will give you the answer. Ladies, if you see your man carrying a ladder and a chainsaw towards your tree, just go ahead and dial 911. There is a reason professional tree companies don't use ladders. When the tips of the branch hit the ground first, they will compress, creating a spring. Unfortunately, this energy is redirected back towards the cut end of the branch and can take the ladder right out from under him. Stick around for more great tips from Tommy, the woodsman. I have a saw for that.com.
It's Brian Kilmeade.
This is different. I mean, Trump is over in France. He's talking to the Prime Minister of Canada. He's calling the President of Mexico. You know, he has the Argentinian president to meet him in Mar-a-Lago. There's no clamor of one president at a time. How disrespectful. What does this party do? And somebody rein him in.
It is the benefit of both Biden and Kamala being MIA.
The Brian Kilmeade Show, weekday mornings from 9 to noon on WLNI. And now, back to Purpose-Driven Finances. Here's Alan Molina with Serwus Capital Management.
Hey, good morning again. This is Alan Molina, your host of Purpose-Driven Finances and president of Serwus Capital Management, helping you achieve the purpose and plan for your life. Sitting here with my friend Rich Roth. We're back at it, my friend. A good, nice, long minute break. Refill your coffee. I didn't have any Bang. You know, I like those in the morning. But Rich, sitting here.
Who doesn't?
Who doesn't? It's a great drink. I like the mango, the fruity mango. But Rich, what I'm doing is, and folks who went to my website, I apologize it wasn't up on there. But this week, probably by the end of this coming week, by Thursday or Friday, it's going to be on this section. I've noticed that a good number of you went to my blog section on my website, and you tried to find it. And I apologize it wasn't there. I would like to say it's because of my marketing agent or my dog ate it or ice, but really it just wasn't ready. I didn't finish it up. But it will be there into this week, and it's going to talk about the past 6 weeks. The 5 things people always ask me about. I mean, the 4 things people ask me about, and then 2 weeks of questions you should ask. And we'll be covering fiduciary fee only, account monitoring, financial planning. So I'm going to have a nice little PDF that you can download. You have to put in your email address, but you can download it, but also review all of the shows. That way, when you come see me, you can ask me the best questions you possibly can. Now, that housekeeping. Now, Rich, what I thought we would do is we're going to take some extra time. We have about 17 minutes. What I really wanted to do is dive into, take a 1 week, because part of it is I want it from my website. 2, to put it on my podcast. But 3, the research that I did for those 5 or 6 past 6 weeks, I came across this research. Now, you've heard of an elevator speech, haven't you?
Absolutely.
You've probably had many.
I've had a few.
I can't stand them.
I can't either.
You know, they're so canned. But people ask me, Alan, what do you do? And I don't like saying financial advisor because then people are like, I'm on a run, watch my wallet, or you're pile of hooey, or you must be loaded and, or what's your stock tip? Sometimes I like to say I help people achieve the purpose and plan for their life. And it sounds like a nice little elevator speech. An elevator speech, folks, for those of you who don't know, it's basically something you can tell someone what you do as you ride in an elevator from floor to floor. And so personally, it's a pretty good marketing statement. You know, I help people achieve the purpose and plan for their life. And it's really geared towards really telling what I do, but also for people to say, well, what is that? You know, I don't like elevator speeches, but I use it for the radio show. I use it for my website. But what I have discovered, and I knew this, but I didn't have the empirical data behind it, is it is not only a great marketing statement for me, and it really sums up what I do. It's something that critically needs to happen in everybody's life. You need to have a purpose and plan for your life. And so let's talk some ancillary details. And I asked my wife if I could actually share this, because this is pretty hardcore. Okay. Her mother passed away. Previous to that, her dad passed away, and they were so in love. They were married for like 50, 60 years. He dated her, and he got, it was one of those early little photos, and on the back of it, he said, "I love you like pigs love slop."
Boy, that's romantic.
It was, it was really funny because she hated the farm. She lived on a farm. She hated the farm. She liked city life. And they were in such, you ever met those couples that were in love with each other? I mean, like head over heels, not only in the beginning, but in the end.
Yeah. Hate to say it, sickening.
Yeah, I understand. Trish is just enamored with you, bro. It's amazing.
Careful, Alan.
It's amazing.
You're going to lose your trust here.
No, it's amazing. So, excuse me, folks. So what ended up happening was he died, passed away. And then several years later, near the anniversary, one of her best friends passed away. Well, she took a huge turn for the worse. And she stopped eating. She got depressed. She got discouraged. And she just missed her husband. And she based it, this is a real diagnosis. It's called broken heart syndrome. I remember probably an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours before she died, I went to visit her in the hospital. And she says, "Alan, I'm so sorry." And she was sorry because she lost hope and lost focus and didn't love her family. And you're like, "Alan, this is so depressing." The reason I'm sharing this is because she lost the purpose and plan for her life. And it's a medical thing. Google broken heart syndrome. It happens to people. I know it's sad, but this is ancillary data. Then there's another thing. I put syndrome on the end of this. There was a national research, and I can provide the link. I call it early retirement syndrome. They call it early retirement. I just added syndrome to it. Did you know that if you retire at age 62, they narrowed it down to 62. You have a 2% increased mortality for people who retire at 62. And the only thing they can attribute it to is because they don't have the purpose and plan that they had once before. They have tested all the other age brackets before it and afterwards, and it's only at age 62.
So if you retire even earlier, you're good.
It's in theory.
In theory.
In theory. And I look at these two things as ancillary data, because this really isn't the meat of it. You say, "Alan, the mother-in-law, this is morbid." I'm trying to give data in order to prove that having a purpose and plan for your life is very beneficial. I know it's kind of strange, but now, folks, Rich is going to read something he's never read on air before.
You really want me to do this?
Yes, I want you to do this.
And you're going to stand here?
I'm going to stand here.
A Bible verse.
Yes, I got 2 Bible verses that Rich is going to read.
You want me to read them?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I don't know if we're insured for this.
Yes, sir.
Here at James River Media.
Exactly.
Kind of looking up at the sky here. Alan.
Right.
Proverbs 29:18. Where there is no vision, the people perish, but he that keeps the law, happy is he.
Mm-hmm. That's a good job, man.
And
Ephesians.
That
was not spelled right.
2:10.
Right.
For we are, sorry, I'm just looking around.
Yeah.
For we are his workmanship, created in Jesus Christ. In Christ Jesus. For good works, which God prepared beforehand, so that we would walk in them. We're back.
We're back. That Rich Roth would read 2 Bible verses on the radio.
That could have been real.
Yeah, exactly. Could have been real.
Could have been a real thunderbolt
He wanted some
coming down from the heavens.
He wanted to have some fun with it. But let me break this down. We only have about 10 minutes left. Proverbs 29:18. This is where there's no vision. Now, for you Christian theologians who are listening, and I know you're listening, you say, Alan, the context you're talking about, this, I understand the context and the meaning, where there is no direction, really law of the Lord. The people, if they have no instruction, they perish. Realistically, we as Christians, if you don't have instruction from the Lord, or even as we as people, if we don't have instructions from the Lord, then we have no idea what to do. And ultimately, there is no morality, there is no law, and ultimately the people perish. And the reason I had him read Ephesians chapter 2, verse 10 is in Christ we are created for good works. And we are prepared, we have been prepared to walk in them. So what happens if we don't have the instructions of the Lord in Proverbs, or we don't do the good works that have been prepared for us? Then it's plain and simple, we lead an unfulfilled life. You're funny. We leave, and some of you are saying, Alan, I thought this was finances. I didn't want you to preach to me. I'm not preaching. I'm just sharing data and truth. You say, Alan, I'm not a Bible person. I'm not a Christian. I reject that. Okay, that's fine. You reject it. The main thing I wanted to get into was a guy by the name of Viktor Frankl. And the reason I didn't print this for Rich, it's like 5 pages. And I'm not going to read it. I'm just going to highlight it. And Rich is going to ask questions. So Viktor Frankl, he died in 1997. He was an Austrian neurologist, psychiatrist, Holocaust founder, and founder of logotherapy. And really, logotherapy is an existential therapy that was focused on the meaning of life. And Rich, it doesn't matter who you are. You can be a jock, you can be a guy playing golf, you can be a house mom, you can be an engineer, you can be a doctor. We all question where we came from and where are we going, and what should we do here? What are those questions? And he really went into that. But one thing that amazed me is he observed that prisoners who found a sense of purpose or meaning in Auschwitz, because he was in 2 camps. He was in Auschwitz and Dachau, and most of his family perished. But he watched and he looked at things and he analyzed and he took data in. And he observed that prisoners who had a sense of purpose or meaning in their suffering were more likely to endure the horrors of the camps. That's sad and that's grim, but even in the pain, people need to have hope. And so he realized that if people actually had hope, they actually lived longer. They actually survived.
I want to say, and I don't think this was you, but I was talking to somebody else, and they said that there was maybe similar data in jail where people who had, if you had a target date that you were going to be released from jail,
right,
that kept you going. And then once that date passed, you gave up hope.
Right.
And
a lot of times you died, you made bad decisions, you got sick. Because he noticed that people just didn't fall off in the floor and die. A lot of times their immunity went down, their hope went down, and so they were more susceptible to depression, to illnesses, and things such as that. And so, I'm going to try to quickly go through here's what he found from the camps. He found that there was a will to meaning, that if people had a meaning of life, they actually had a will to live. I thought this was rather interesting, Rich.
Mm-hmm.
There was a freedom of attitude that if they chose, their response was of hope and of help and of a future, they had a better outside response and better life. Also, he found out if people had a meaning in suffering. You ever met those people who were like, they suffered every day? And I don't ever want to be around those people.
Mm.
You know, I don't mind if you say, listen, man, today's been bad. My dog died. You know, I fell down the stairs, my car tires, but not every stinking day. And then also being future-oriented thinking, a higher chance of survival. And also the importance of love, of thinking of what to love, who to love, and things like that. Now, as I was going through here, there's a couple of things, and there's some questions I didn't give Rich, but I'm going to pose to you. One thing that was interesting, he observed that even in extreme suffering, like a concentration camp, those who had a sense of purpose were more likely to survive. And in that situation, what ends up happening is we as people, if we go through and have a purpose, then when we go through crap, we're going to do a whole lot better. All right, perfect. Rich and I are on time now. But also, people can endure suffering if they believe the pain has a purpose. Rich, I don't know how many people of you have, read about or heard about being martyred, but it's astounding some of the crap they go through. And yet, they take it willingly. And because they have a greater purpose of what they're doing and why they're doing it. So check this out. How to find meaning. I'm going to try to wrap this up in that way to give you really concrete things that you can do. How to find meaning. That's my first question. First, you need to look through your work or achievements. Look through your love and relationships, and look through suffering and struggles. Because realistically, we're not always in a storm. We're either going into one, in the middle of one, or coming out. And we can use our struggles to help others get through it. I'm not going to ask specifics, but Rich, have your kids ever gone through crap?
Of course.
And you as their dad, have been able to help them through it. And that's really part of it. Now, what happens if, I know, Rich, I can ask you this and you'll know. I don't even have to look at my notes. What if someone doesn't have a purpose and plan for their life? What's going to be their general attitude? What do you think?
Kind of negative.
Exactly.
Depressed.
That's the words right here. Emptiness, boredom, despair, lack of purpose, depression, addiction, just because of lack of meaning.
And one.
So real quick, I'm going to give you 5 things that can help you figure out your purpose. The first thing is ask yourself, what gives me purpose? At work, in your relationships, your passions, your personal growth, what gives me purpose? Number 2 is embrace responsibility. Taking responsibility for something bigger than yourself. Could be a GoFundMe page, could be your church, could be giving to somebody, but do something greater than yourself. Number 3, find meaning in suffering. Reframe your suffering as an opportunity for growth and to help future generations. Number 4, live for something greater than yourself. Not from self-centered happiness, but from serving others or committing to a higher goal. And finally, use future-oriented thinking. Having a vision for the future can help you endure hardships. Now you say, Alan, what does this have to do with it? I'm here to help you achieve the purpose and plan for your life. I help you figure out your purpose. You come to me with your purpose. I'll help you with a plan. Give me a call at 434-316-0246. Hope you have a great weekend.
Returns for illustrative purpose. This is not a suggestion to buy, sell, or use a platform. Only will a suggestion occur after a meeting to determine goals, risk tolerance, and time horizons. Investments involve risks and no guarantee of future results.